What's good? This is Ken Demetrios, and you are now tuned in to another episode of Next Gen Combat Sports TV. So first off, I just want to apologize. I know it's been a minute, but a lot been going on with work and stuff. But we back at it, and what's the best time to be back at it than for a banger? And I do mean the Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin De Lo Santos fight that will be tomorrow, November 16th, in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. And also some undercard fights, but in this video we talk about Edwin De Lo Santos and Shakur Stevenson. So I think this is a really good fight because this is Shakur Stevenson's second fight at the 135-pound weight class division. And some people had some things to say about his first fight there. He fought Shuichiro Yoshino, who was a decent opponent as a entry fight into 135. But he was really more so of a domestic level Japanese contender, not even contender. He was more so like a rising talent from the Japanese domestic level. And Shakur did to him what Shakur does to most of his opponents when he has the physical advantages that he do. But in this matchup, he's going to be going up against Edwin De Lo Santos, the hard-hitting Dominican southpaw, very slick, very quick, athletic. And that's one of the reasons I like this matchup so well, because I've always felt like Shakur Stevenson has been in matchups where he always had the physical advantages over his opponents. And while he still is very skilled and he will still handle his opponents in a very skilled manner, it's just a matter of, when you're bigger, stronger, faster than your opponent, and then you got skills on top of that, it's just kind of like a mismatch in a sense. But with Edwin is about 5'8", 5'7", 135 pounds, but he's fought in the 130-pound weight class as well. So, so for Shakur, he's a solid size 135, but he's not like the biggest guy or like a smaller one where they're about the same size in terms of physical dynamics. I think Edwin might have like longer arms, but some of that information is inaccurate anyway. But in terms of the actual matchup, I think this is a very interesting fight because I don't think Shakur Stevenson has ever encountered someone like Edwin De Lo Santos. And I say that because Edwin De Lo Santos has a boxer puncher style, but he also has physical attributes that can take that style and make it very difficult to handle for anybody. Like, I'm talking about Shakur right now, but this could definitely be for anybody in the 135 or I would dare to say 140-pound division, because Edwin De Lo Santos recently had a situation. He had a sparring session with Richard Hitchens, and Hitchens said in the video that he feels like Edwin De Lo Santos and Shakur Stevenson was a 50-50 fight. Now, granted, after that, he came out and said that he was just playing and, Edwin gonna get ass to belt and all this good stuff. But, if he said that initially and then recanted his words once it kind of blew up, it may have had some truth to it. But, to me, some of Edwin De Lo Santos' strengths are his footwork, his hand speed, his head movement, his pace, his combination punching, his counter punching, and his jab. And that's just some stuff off the top. He also does really good pull counters. He has really good hooks. He has a really good lead hand. Like, I feel like people not talking about his lead hand as much as they should be. Like, besides his jab that he changes levels with, he goes to the body, he goes to the head, he steps around at an angle when he does his jab. But his lead hook is also dangerous because when he steps in, he sometimes he does it off of his level change, and when he explodes in, you might think he's coming in for like an overhand left, and then he just slips a right hook right in there. But so that's some of the attributes he has. I also think he has very slipped on defense. He's not just like a come forward aggressive fighter like a lot of people try to make him out to be. He's actually very he picks his spots very well in his attack, and he gets off the line as well. He doesn't just sit there and wait for you to shoot and then try and get off the line. He actually actively avoids punches. He doesn't just try to walk through punches. And that's actually a problem I think Shakur's going to run into, because Shakur, he's a very elite counter puncher, but I don't think Shakur has ever been in the position where he's had to worry about someone countering his counter, if that makes sense. You know, it's like sometimes, you know, it's easy when you can just, when you're faster than them, you can just wait for them to throw, and then you can counter them because you're faster. So that in turn makes the opponent want to put their hands in their pockets. If you watch any Shakur Stevenson fight, there's a point in time where, you know, the opponent might be trying to, you know, get his time, and the opponent might try to press him. But later on in the fight, once Shakur really gets their timing down pat and he gets the range down pat, his opponents won't even throw, because it's almost like the more they throw, the more they're gonna get a clean lick. And that could also happen with Edwin De Lo Santos, but I just think Edwin De Lo Santos has the speed and the timing to, you know, counteract that for Shakur. I think it'll be a very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see who has the speed and timing advantage, because I think that's one area where Shakur has also had an advantage. But the power is also going to be something that, well, the power combined with the speed, I think that that's going to be something that's going to have Shakur in a very precarious predicament, if you will, because it's one thing for someone to have good hand speed, they can punch with you, and it's one thing for someone to have power. But when someone has power and speed, and then there's questions of whether, oh, is his power really like that? Well, you know, it might be like that, it might not, but you don't really want to see that. So at that point, it kind of makes you hesitant to even want to engage, because that moment between where you first get hit and where you're still trying to play your cards right, it can kind of play with you mentally to where you won't want to engage the way you're used to engaging. Honestly, this fight reminds me a lot of the Inoue fight and Stephen Fulton fight. You know, you got the pure boxer versus the boxer puncher. And not saying Edwin De Lo Santos is just like Inoue, but I just think in terms of his hand speed, his combination punching, his jab, kind of how he changes levels, and his ability to come forward and then throw multiple combinations at the same time, I think that's pretty similar with the monster. And then also with Stephen Fulton and Shakur Stevenson, I think, you know, they both kind of try to use a Philly shell, but not so much. Both have really good jabs. Both are really good. They're really explosive with the first punch. You know, like the first punch, the first two punches, they can get those out there really quick and it's really snappy, but it's not really too much after that. But they got that initial quick first punch. But I say it reminds me of that fight because one place where I think Edwin De Lo Santos is going to have a big advantage is jabbing to the body. Because when Shakur gets jabbed to the body, he has the tendency to kind of like just take it, like or lean back or try to block it with his hand, and that could leave him open for like an overhand left or something like that. But I think that's going to be a big strategy for Edwin De Lo Santos to just go to the body consistently and early, because I think that's just he's going to need that to build confidence. And also, if he goes to the body early, I think that it will allow him to break Shakur down and wear him down to where later on in the fight, Shakur won't be able to move as much if he's trying to like really cut the ring off. So that's one other way I think he's going to run into some trouble. Also, one cardinal sin that Shakur Stevenson does all the time that people don't really talk about is pulling straight back. And even besides pulling straight back, to me, it's like he doesn't really have any head movement. Like sometimes he'll kind of lean over to the side, but he doesn't really roll, or you know, he doesn't really slip to left or right. He has more front and back movement and kind of just taking a step back and avoiding and kind of just resetting the whole equation, which is, you know, good, because one thing I do see about Shakur, his game is one of his strengths is he almost kind of resets the playing field to like you just playing the simplest boxing games. And he's just so good at these boxing games, you know, he always resets the distance, you know, he keeps you away, he's quicker, you know, he's faster to the punch. Shakur Stevenson, he has great punch placement, he has great combination punching. You know, Shakur Stevenson, he's really just a good all-around fighter. And even now getting towards the end, you know, once I'm getting to my prediction, I am predicting Edwin De Lo Santos to stop Shakur, and I think he's going to stop him in about the 9th round. I think he'll break him down, and I think he'll get to him late, because I think Shakur Stevenson's going to have his hands in his pockets. But like I was saying, if Shakur loses, it doesn't mean Shakur's trash. You know, I mean, I pick at Shakur and I talk about, you know, his punching power because I'm a Ryan Garcia fan. So, you know, in the context of all the other fighters, You know, we say what we say, but if Shakur Stevenson loses, that doesn't mean he's trash. That doesn't mean, you know, he got exposed. It might, well, it kind of does mean he got exposed, but not in a way that is detriment to him, but kind of how his fans rate Shakur. Like, they rate Shakur like he's like the greatest since Floyd, and you know, he just can't be stopped. He's gonna be the next generational talent, and he could be. He very much well could be. But I haven't seen the in-ring performances against the competition that could make you have a statement like that, you know. But I mean, that's just me. And just to clarify, you see on my shirt right here is LeBron James. I used to hate LeBron James. I was a Derrick Rose fan. Like, you know, the Bulls and the Miami Heat, they used to go at it all the time. And back then, that's when I really thought LeBron, like, I was like, yeah, he ain't got it. But after he beat Derrick Rose the way he did and then continued to persevere and win his championships, at some point, I had to give LeBron his credit. And even to this day, I look at his career and what he's done, and I think he's the greatest basketball player ever now. Even though I was never the biggest fan of Jordan, but now to me, I give LeBron his credit. So for Shakur, it may be that situation. Maybe I just have to see him, you know, perform and make these spectacular performances and keep on persevering, and then, you know, I'll see it, and then I'll be able to say Shakur, he's really that type of talent, and he's really part of the next generation, which I'll be covering because, you know, it's next generation combat sports. So if you're a Shakur Stevenson fan and you see this video, you know, and maybe Shakur wins, you know, just stay with me and then just tell me how good he is, and then I'll promise you I'll cover him and I'll make sure I talk all good about Shakur from here on out. But yeah, about the fight though, what I'm predicting with the stoppage, I just think Edwin De Lo Santos is quicker. I think he's faster. I think he has a lot more boxing ability than we give him credit for. I think he uses more angles than Shakur. I think Shakur's, and this is gonna sound so crazy, and I know people are gonna talk too much junk, but Shakur Stevenson, he's kind of like an up and down fighter. He's kind of straight up and down, you know. He's got good disc control, some of the best in the game. He's got good quick hands. He got good quick punch placement, and he's got good defense. And he's, you know, he's a high level guy all around the board. But I just think there's holes in his game, and I think that some of the more dynamic athletes that have the skill sets that can match his athleticism and then counteract some of his natural born talents with their natural born talents, I think he's going to be in some trouble. And I think this fight with Edwin De Lo Santos is going to be in some trouble because Edwin, he's a hard-hitting guy. He's hungry. He's from Dominican Republic. You know, he has a different type of mentality when it comes to, you know, these situations. And also, I want to make this point before I close out. I think in the short career, we talk about the experience between Edwin De Lo Santos and Shakur Stevenson, but I actually think that in the career De Lo Santos had, I think he's 24, and I think Shakur Stevenson's either 26 or 27. I think Edwin De Lo Santos been through more and had more experiences than Shakur. Granted, I know Shakur went to the Olympics, and I know he had an amateur pedigree, but professionally, with his loss to William Foster III and him being knocked down by Rayo Valenzuela and then coming back to beat Rayo Valenzuela on that stage, on that undercard, in a situation where he was obviously the B-side and he came in and stopped him, I think that situation, this is a big situation because it's for the belt, but I think that situation was kind of on that same level because no one expected him to be there and he overperformed the way he has. Now, Shakur, on the other hand, he's had almost no competitive fights to this point. He's the two champions he has beat, they were more on the aging end of their careers. You know, Oscar Valdez, he's more of a 126 pounder. Not taking nothing away from Shakur because he did what he was supposed to, but at the same time, you know, back to my original point, he hasn't fought the type of athletic talents, you know, combined with natural born skills like we see in Edwin De Lo Santos. And one more point I want to make just before I close out. I know we talk about Shakur and how he looks, you know, and how he's more so standing in the pocket and how he's been, you know, and I'll give him credit for that. Shakur has been standing in the pocket. He really doesn't run as much. He stands there, stands right outside the range, pick his spots and pick his entry points, and he does it very well. But one fight that we did see him very uncomfortable and was one of his worst performances, you know, in the most recent era was the fight against Nakatia, the African policeman that they were calling him. We seen in that fight that he wanted to be on his bike the majority of the time, and even in that sense, he was playing defense the whole fight. Like, there was at no point where he was saying like, okay, let me come to Nakatiya, because Nakatiya had a very strong right hand, and that's about all he had. You know, he had no type of footwork, he had no type of entry points. He was a pretty big guy, but he wasn't really the fastest guy. He wasn't the most explosive. He had length, but he didn't know how to use it. He was just kind of lumbering forward, chasing around Shakur all night, and Shakur had to do what he had to do. And granted, he still came out the other end. And to be honest with you, let's say he does that with Edwin De Lo Santos, I'll still give him credit, because, you know, there's still a skill set in, you know, neutralizing a power puncher's abilities. But if Shakur was to stop Edwin De Lo Santos, I would say that at that point I might lean towards him if he were to fight a Tank Davis. But we will just have to see tomorrow. But tell me what you guys think. Let me know if y'all think I'm tripping, if I'm crazy, Edwin De Lo Santos is a Dominican bum and Shakur is going to beat his ass, or do you think that Shakur is overrated or whatever and Edwin De Lo Santos is going to knock him out and expose him? Either way, let me know, and I will holler at you guys in the next one.